Hey, it's Jack from Jack Gately Real Estate and the Online Real Estate Academy. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're all set there. Great. Thank you so much for joining us. We are live here from beautiful Plymouth. I want to dive right into the CPI numbers. The CPI numbers, let's see if we can bring those up on your screen here. Consumer Price Index inflation rose more than expected in September. So, according to CNN, inflation remained elevated in September as gas and rents kept prices high and heaped more pressure on consumers. New data released Thursday by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And the Bureau of Labor Statistics have definitely had some data situations over the last year, but there it is. I got this chart here from Axios. I thought this was the easiest chart to look at, and when you put it on the screen, there's basically two types of CPI. Remember, there's core CPI, which is theoretically everything, or as Axios calls it, all items. That's the blue. And then there's CPI without food and without energy, as if anybody can live without food or without energy. But there it is. And as you can see, as soon as early 2021, which also coincided with the change of presidential administrations, pure coincidence, I'm sure, you could see inflation spike up to 8-9%. And then it's been on its way down for several months. It went up quick and it's come down quick, but it still is not at the 2% goal that the Fed has been looking for. The Fed, theoretically, they want 2%. And really, we've seen some middling, and it almost seems as if we're really not going to move off the 4% or so, whether you look at core CPI or the headline number, it's about 4%. And there doesn't seem to be any further downward pressure on that number. It seems as if we went down, and it doesn't look like we're going to go much farther than that. Now, maybe it's just a pause as we continue to drop. That would be nice if inflation went back to 2%, at the end of the year. But given the government spending, which is endorsed by both parties, right? It takes two to tango here. Given the government spending, the fundamentals are that it's really difficult to think of inflation going back to 2%. That's just simply just the way it is. I mean, with the government spending the way it is, with the deficits that we're running. So with CPI pushing yields higher today, and over the last couple of days, we've had a softening of yields, right? If you look at the 10-year over the last couple of days, we've seen a peak. What was that peak? That was October 3rd. And then we had almost another peak on October 9th. Then we had everything happen in the Middle East over the last couple of days, which has been horrific. And the market took a pause, right? And now today we're kind of back up. We're starting to get to 4.7 on the 10-year. Remember, I told you once we broke 4.34, it was off to the races. And if you look at the 6-month chart on the 10-year, what does this trend show you? The trend shows you up because all of the fundamentals indicate, and this again is almost, I wouldn't say exclusively, but heavily driven by our government spending, which is effectively the same as printing money, like the Fed does all the time. They're not good. Our fiscal principles, our fiscal policy is not looking good. So I expect that this trend, this 10-year, to regain the trend in the near term. Certainly it is today with the CPI number. Again, now we're up 0.106 on the day, mostly on the CPI number. And then I think, even though we had a couple of days off, I think the fundamentals of the market remain strong. They remain disappointing, but the fundamentals remain strong in that the dollar is going to get weaker and there's going to be more inflation, which, my point of view is a hidden tax. So mortgage rates yesterday ended at 7.6, according to Mortgage News Daily. I love their chart. That's the chart that I quote on a daily basis. You can see them on this chart here. I mean, they were down to 3% or so back in August of 2021. And ever since, they've been just, on the way to the moon. I still think we're going to get to a solid 8% handle on mortgage rates, unless there's some type of, startling world event that stops us from getting there. And all of this has given the entire housing industry, whether it's the National Association or the Mortgage Bankers Association, or just you and me, real estate agents and brokers across the country, this has given all of us some significant pause, because it's hard to deny the fact that there are fewer transactions, right? There are fewer transactions than there were 5 years ago, but when things were normal prior to 2020. So that's hurt a lot of people, and there have been a wide variety of reactions to this. There's been a number of people who are trying to make getting into the industry harder because they don't want the competition, right? Oh, we have to make our standards tougher, but it's really all about limiting competition. We've seen that here in Massachusetts a little bit. They're making the exam tougher, and all of that is completely motivated by the fact that they don't want as many people in the business because they don't want to compete. And more macro on that is that your larger associations, we've heard it also from Glenn Kelman over at Redfin, they are pressuring the Fed to lower interest rates. And so here's a big story. This is from just the other day. Housing industry urges Powell to stop raising interest rates or risk an economic hard landing. And they're kind of projecting here, because basically what they're saying is, hey, we're having a hard landing. Or as Mike Zuber likes to say, it's a rolling recession. I mean, there's a recession in some industries, but not in others. And we're having a recession in real estate effectively because there's not a lot of transactions. And when there's not a lot of transactions, then the big associations don't make as much money. Nobody's making as much money as they were before. Some people are, but on the pie has shrunk. Let's just put it that way. Some people are getting bigger slices of the pie than others, but the pie has contracted a little bit. I mean, that's pretty hard to deny. So it's the Home Builders, the Mortgage Bankers Association, and the National Association of Realtors wrote to the Fed to convey their profound concern about the industry. And the groups asked the Fed to contemplate not raising rates. Please don't raise rates anymore, and not to actively sell its holdings of mortgage-backed securities. So does this really matter to you? Yeah, I think that's a really good point. If you're a rank and file agent out there, should this matter to you? It does matter to you in the macro sense. And we've had this opinion piece from Brad Inman over at Inman come out. We're in the middle of a perfect storm, but clearer skies are ahead. We're not going to go through everything that he details here, but he definitely talks about inflation, all the NAR scandals, the lawsuits, the sexual harassment scandal, the thing in San Diego. All of those things are, I'm pretty sure, mentioned in this lengthy NAR article, The Frozen Housing Market. We just did a video on this, why the housing market is frozen. You may have seen it on my YouTube channel. It's a kind of like an economics 101 course. It's why the demand curve and the supply curve have shifted. So Brad goes through all of these things in this article. It's a very well-written article. Fantastic. I got this YouTube comment today, actually, and I'm going to tell you that all of that stuff is good to have, and I talk about it here on this channel, in the back of your head as an agent, because clearly everyone, whether you're in Massachusetts or San Diego or Anchorage or wherever you are, if you're in the United States, you're all working in real estate in this environment. It's my job to keep you up to date about that. But it's also my job to, I hope, through this channel, it's my goal of this channel, is also to kind of keep you focused on what you need to do to put yourself in the best position to win as an individual agent, right? What can you do? So I got this YouTube comment on this video I did last week. National Association of Realtors to allow 0% commission for buyers. Let's see if I can get this to show up on your screen a little bit better here. Yeah, there we go. That's a little bit better. Here we go. So an anonymous YouTuber, yeah, that's okay. It doesn't matter. It's the substance of the complaint that we got here that I thought, or the comment that I thought was really good here. Here it is here. I'm going to highlight it here. Your thoughts, Jack. Your thoughts, Jack. I'm a buyer agent, and because I need to get paid for my time and showing, negotiating, helping the buyer buy the house, but because my commission is coming from the buyer, which is not included in the sale, and the buyers does not have a commission, what would be my recourse? How would I get paid without suing the client and not allowing the sale to go through without payment of commission? So the simple answer to that, it would be number one, consult your broker, which is my response here. But if allowed in your state, I'd start to use the exclusive buyer representation agreement, which is allowed in most states. And this is effectively the inverse of a listing agreement. And it locks the buyer into working with you for a certain amount of time, let's just say 6 months. And if you're successful, there's a success fee, which the buyer pays you for the successful completion of the pursuit, just as it sounds, a success fee. Now, very much like renting apartments in Boston, which is how I started in this business, basically you pitch this to the buyer when you're asking for their signature. We're going to try to get the seller or landlord, as I used to say in Boston, to pay the fee. But if they don't, this is the amount that you would pay. So we would do this all the time when we rented an apartment in Boston because we have a mandatory fee disclosure in Massachusetts. When the tenant's paying a fee, we'd sit them down at the table just before we walked out to show them apartments, which were a lot of them were walkable, not all of them. But they basically say, hey, there's always a fee, and it just depends upon who pays it. This form here discloses the fact that we're going to try to get the landlord to pay it, or seller in your case. But if the seller doesn't want to pay it, then you would be obliged to pay it. So we just want to let you know this up front before we go out and show you apartments so that we're not surprising you later on. And every once in a while you get people, oh, I'm not going to sign that. Oh, okay, no problem. You don't have to sign it. That's okay. It's a free market. You don't have to sign it. And if you don't want to, that's okay. Thanks for coming in. You have a nice day. But aren't you going to show me apartments? Well, we get paid for our time, effort, and expertise, our professionalism. And so if you're not willing to agree to that up front, then we do have some other clients that we can serve. You have choices, and so do we. So if you don't want to sign it and you don't want to pay the fee, again, we're going to try to get the seller to pay it. But if they don't pay, then you would be paying. But if you don't like that arrangement, that's okay. Thanks for coming in. Now, I'd say it a little bit nicer than that, a lot nicer than that. There were some agents who were incredibly gruff, and they were like, we get paid. Remember this one guy? We get paid. Sign this. And almost all of his clients were young kids in their 20s, a lot of whom their parents were paying anyways, so it didn't matter as much. And it was kind of the shock value. It was funny. Sometimes he'd have the whole office laughing. Because obviously you get paid, right? It's not a charity. So you might want to start using that form if your broker allows it and if it's allowed in your state. Also, more importantly, I'm not sure if your lead sources, but I'd reevaluate and think of seller leads. How do you get seller leads? I also did a video about this last month or something like that, or just the other day, last week, I should say, stop marketing to buyers. If you got a lot of buyers, you've got to change your marketing entirely. You've got to change your marketing. We talk about this in the Part-Time Agent Academy, actually. Link in description. But I'm going to give you the short answer here in one sentence. I think the answer is crystal clear. How to get seller leads. Buy your ads, whether that's on whatever, whether you're starting to put your picture on bus stop benches or billboards or in the grocery cart, supermarket, carriage, whatever they call it. Buy your ads or develop a community around a shared interest through content creation. That could be written, podcast, or video. Like, that sounds familiar. Let's say you like pickleball, elk hunting, surfing, sewing. It doesn't matter really what it is. Create a written podcast or video content around that topic in your geographic market. I think it's important to have it somehow geographically centered. So whether that's, Oshkosh, Bagosh, or wherever you happen to be, somehow in your geographic market. Earn these people's trust, then ask for their business. Somewhere right in your newsletter, for instance, about bird watching. Put it right in there, right after the first paragraph. Would you like, to support this blog, consider buying and selling real estate with Sally the agent, because you're Sally, right? Therefore, by building this audience, whether it's 500, 1,000, 1,500 people, imagine having an audience of 1,500, 1,000 people. Let's just say 1,000 people who actually read your emails because it was something about they were interested in. All the bird watchers on the South Shore of Massachusetts read your bird watching email because someone saw a rare egret in some lake somewhere. You got to find the passion out there. Whether it's elk hunting, pickleball, sewing, whatever the hell it happens to be. And again, you can do this through written podcast, which is, verbal audio, or through video. For written content, I think by far Substack is the place to go. It's an email collection machine. Some of you might recognize that that's actually what I'm doing here, right? I'm creating a video podcast or live stream or whatever you want to call this thing. And I'm doing it in a way that effectively is the exact same thing. My job here, why I'm making this content, is not only because I actually look this stuff up myself every day anyways, and then it only takes me 25, 30 minutes to share it with you. So, the research part I'm already doing, which actually almost takes longer. But reason why I'm dedicating my time to do it is to gain signups for my real estate school, right? For the Part-Time Agent Academy, right? For the real estate agency, for agents to come and join my agency. All of the content that I create, by the way, you can find all the links in the description. Right? We'll get it there soon. I don't know if it's there. It will be there soon. All of those things, all the content we create is to support those things, right? Because, I want to get paid. I do this because I like it, but also because subliminally I'm trying to create some inbound marketing for my businesses. You should be doing the exact same thing. Again, doesn't really matter what your interest is, as long as you have some type of shared interest and there's enough of a critical mass of a community. Then all this other mumbo jumbo that you hear, we're in the middle of a perfect storm, but clear skies are ahead. What the mortgage rates are, none of that really matters anymore. If you have dedicated fans that are committed to you, that trust you, that know you, that actually read, hear, or watch you, then it really doesn't matter what everything else is going on in the world because you have fans. All right. I'm Jack Gately from Jack Gately Real Estate and the Online Real Estate Academy. Have a great day. Bye-bye.